Hey everyone, Sean here with Everything REI, and on this channel, we go over real estate investing tips, strategies, and current events to help you learn more about the business and to help you become a real estate investing boss. And in this episode, we're gonna go over the Bay Area's December of 2020 market update. So the way that we're gonna get our statistics is by going through the MLS itself. As a realtor, I get access to this data by going to MLSlistings.com and clicking on the matrix search. So once we're in matrix search, we can click on statistics and then type in all the parameters that we want to search in. So for this purpose, we're going to look at Santa Clara County, San Mateo County, and Alameda County and see how their markets are performing. So first things first, let's go to Santa Clara County. I personally want to look at just single family homes because as a real estate flipper, we usually don't care too much about how condos or townhouses are doing. We want to compare our apples to other apples. So if we look at all residential properties, single family homes in Santa Clara County, we can then see how this market type is performing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through our presets and we're going to look at our average days on market versus the sale to list price ratio. So as you can see, the days on market were pretty high in early 2020. In January, we usually have the seasonality of things being slower during the winter times and then picking up in the spring. Usually they slow down during the summer, and then we saw that a little bit here, and then they pick up again during the fall. The sales to list price ratio is the ratio between what a home actually sold for versus what it was listed for. So if the list to sales price ratio on average is 105%, then that means that your sale price is going to be around 105% of your list price. So for example, if the home was listed for $1 million and the average sales to list price is 105%, then you can expect that that property will sell for $1,050,000. And as you can see, it was actually pretty high, and then when COVID hit, the numbers went down pretty significantly. And we were hovering around 100% for a long time, which meant that whatever you listed at was probably what it's going to sell for. But then as you can see, as the months continued and as people were more and more familiar with buying in a COVID environment, the average sales to list price ratio actually increased. And our days on market increased a little bit here, and then it tapered off. I do want to make a note that these 7-day on markets are kind of BS numbers because if you remembered, when shelter in place was first enacted back in early March, National Association of Realtors made an agreement that said that any of your properties that were on the market would now have their days on market frozen because they didn't want you to be negatively impacted due to COVID. So these numbers may be lower artificially because a lot of these properties actually had 0 days on market during that time. But as you can see, the market is still very healthy. They average around 2 to 3 weeks. And right now the days on market have actually decreased a little bit. So let's look at what the listings were by price range. So for the past year in Santa Clara County for single family homes, you can see there's a huge peak right here between $800,000 to $1 million. There's another peak from 1.2 to 1.4, and there's a third peak from $2 to $3 million. So 3 major peaks in Santa Clara County. This one probably represents like San Jose, Milpitas. This one's probably Santa Clara or starting homes in Sunnyvale. And this one's probably more affluent neighborhoods like Cupertino and Mountain View. So let's look at the months of inventory. So as you can see here, the months of inventory have actually decreased quite a bit. And months of inventory signifies how many months it would take to sell all of the properties that are active on the market right now if there were no more new properties on the market. So what this graph is showing me is that no more new properties were on the market today, then it would take less than a month to sell all of the homes on the market, and then there would be no more real estate for anyone to buy. A very low number for the months of inventory signified that we are in a very hot and very healthy market. Let's look at the number of homes for sale versus for sold. So as you can see here, for most of the time, you usually have more active homes than numbers that were sold. Now sold means they're closed, it's not just pending or contingent. And when we got all the way up to September, it seemed like we had more listings than sold, but that number is actually flipped. So we're actually selling more properties than we're putting on the market. It's the winter months. People usually don't want to put their properties on the market now, they don't have to. And what that means is you have less inventory, like we saw in the previous chart, which means that if you have the same amount of buyers who also have really high paying tech jobs that they haven't been laid off from, and when you combine that with ultra low interest rates, you can see why the market is still very, very competitive, even amongst all this coronavirus uncertainty. If we look at what the sales price is over time, we can see that slowly but surely, homes in Santa Clara County are actually increasing over time. And our average, if we look at the data itself, is now at $1.7 million on average – for a sales price in Santa Clara County, which is amazing. This sales by price range is very similar to the listings by price range, but like I said before, this is for the homes that actually closed. And we still see those same peaks here, here, and here. Sales volume represents how much real estate has been sold as a whole in Santa Clara County. And of course, this number is down because we're still in the early phase of December, so we don't have all the data yet. I do want to look at some customized data. If we go into more customized data, we can look at the price per square foot ratio. So as you can see here, the price per square foot ratio has increased from 2019, but has been relatively flat throughout the year. So what this means is how much are you paying per square foot of the home? So if your home was 2,000 square feet, you can just take this price per square foot number on average and multiply it by 2,000. So if we look at some expired listings, we can see that there are still some expired listings. So there are still some homes out there that aren't being sold. So don't get me wrong, not all the properties right now during COVID are selling for top dollar. There are some listings that just don't appeal to the average home buyer. So for example, right now, single family homes are doing very well. Condos in general are not doing very well because people want more land and more space. And likewise, if you have a home that is completely renovated and basically turnkey, then that is more appealing than a home that needs a lot of extra work. Don't forget that people who are buying homes in the Bay Area are probably white collar workers who know how to do a lot in terms of their tech field, but they probably aren't very handy when it comes to construction. So they might think that any small job can be a lot of work. So they'd rather have something that's completely turnkey and pay a premium for it than buy a potential fixer and have to deal with all the problems inside. So if you change some of your filters to group by city and you change your statistic to sales by volume, you can see which cities are performing the best. As you can see here, a lot of the homes were sold in San Jose. They had over $6 billion worth of homes sold then. Palo Alto and Los Altos are close to about $1 billion worth of home sales. Same with Sunnyvale and Los Gatos. If you go to the data chart, you can see all the numbers right here. So if you want a lot of liquidity, then it's best to buy your home in San Jose. Otherwise, probably go to Sunnyvale and Santa Clara. Let's look at, instead of the dollar volume, look at number of sales. Okay, so you can see here, 4,000 homes were sold in San Jose, 513 in Santa Clara, and 500 in Gilroy and Morgan Hill. Like I mentioned, a lot of people are moving to Gilroy and Morgan Hill because they want to have more land and more space, basically getting more bang for your buck. Sunnyvale is also pretty liquid. Milpitas is a really good entry point, but as you can see here, you aren't selling as many homes as you are in these other places. So that means there's probably less competition, and that means that you're not going to be able to get the returns you want if you're flipping a home in Milpitas. So let's quickly go over the same charts for San Mateo County and Alameda County. So go back to search and change your parameters here to San Mateo County. We're going to go for residential single family home and go back to our presets and check out the average days on market and sales to list price ratio. Okay, so from here we can see that this is for San Mateo, and pretty similar. Our days on market in San Mateo is actually doing a little bit worse. It's actually increasing over time versus decreasing like we saw in Santa Clara County. Your average sales to list price ratio is also around 103, which is not too bad. If we look at the listings, okay, so we also have 3 peaks here. Similarly at 800 to 1 million, 1.2 to 1.4, and 2 million to 3 million. But obviously, compared to Santa Clara County, this is more skewed to the right. And that's because San Mateo County, also known as the Peninsula, typically has more expensive properties in this area. If we check out the months of inventory, we can see that it's relatively seasonal, same as before. We are still a little bit above 1 month's worth, so it's not as liquid as Santa Clara County was, but still very, very, very low and still very healthy. Compared to other years, it seems pretty standard. Nothing too crazy here, especially compared to last year where they had 2 months worth of inventory. Okay, if we check out the sales volume by city, you can see that Redwood City has the most sales, then San Mateo, then Menlo Park, even being on Atherton with their $50 million price points. So let's go to how many properties were actually sold and see who the winners are. Okay, Redwood City, San Mateo, San Carlos. Let's look at the data. So 500 in Redwood City and 500 in San Mateo. So if you're going to flip a property and you want to sell quickly, do so in Redwood City and San Mateo. Otherwise, your property might sell on the market for a little bit longer than you expect. All right, and now let's go to Alameda County. So for those of you guys who don't know, Alameda County is basically the East Bay. So that's going to include Fremont, Newark, and Oakland. Now, Alameda County has its own MLS system called Paragon. This one is MLS listings. Now, MLS listings usually only covers 5 different counties like San Mateo County, Santa Clara County, and Santa Cruz County, but doesn't include Alameda County for whatever reason. Just a heads up, this data here might not be 100% accurate. So if we check out the average days on market and sale to list price ratio for Alameda County, we can see here that the average days on market are pretty good and the numbers are dropping. This spike right here to show your sale to list price ratio is obviously an artifact, and unfortunately this is what happens when sometimes your data gets corrupted and you don't go back in your system to fix it, because it makes all these data look like it's at 0, but in reality because this data point is at 60,000%, which is obviously not true. So if we click the data here, we can see that it hovers at around 105%, but in November it went up to 114%. So I guess Alameda County is the place to be right now, with an average days on market of only 19 days, which is amazing. If we check on the listings by price range, we can see that there's a peak at $600,000 to $800,000 and $800,000 to $1 million. Also a small bump in 1.2 to 1.4 million. So properties in Alameda County are obviously more affordable than those in Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. If we check out our months of inventory, you can see that there's been a dip over here, and properties are now selling out at about 1.3 months. If we look at the properties that are active versus closed, we can see that right now, unlike Santa Clara County and San Mateo County, we are still seeing more active listings than we are seeing closed sales. So sale price over time, it's actually going up. In November, we're seeing average price of $1.117 million. And in December, right now we're seeing it at 1.023. Our sales by price range is also going to be similar to the graph of listings by price range. Now let's look at sales volume based on the area. And we can see that Fremont is the winner in terms of the number of sales, then Livermore, Pleasanton, Hayward. So now we change it to sales volume by area to see liquidity of each city. And if we click on the data, we can see that Fremont is the winner at 1,700 sales, then Livermore at 1,300 sales, and Hayward at 1,300 sales. But as you can see, these are a lot higher than what we saw in Santa Clara County and San Mateo County. So if you want to do a lot of volume, it's probably good to try buying a property here in the East Bay. Check out Union City, Castro Valley, San Leandro, Dublin, Pleasanton, Hayward, Livermore, and Fremont. So overall, we can see that these prices are increasing. The days on market in general is decreasing. List to price ratio is increasing. Your months of inventory is decreasing. So like I mentioned before, all these factors signify that we are in a very hot market. Usually during the winter months, there is extreme seasonality and there's usually a freeze in the real estate market. But because of COVID, because people still have a lot of money in their tech jobs, and because interest rates are very, very, very low, and because there's very little inventory on the market, prices have remained high and the market has still seen a lot of strength. There are some people that are thinking that in early 2021, there's going to be a huge real estate crash. But as it is right now, we're not really seeing it. I've talked to several other real estate experts over the past few months to get their opinion on a 2021 crash. And they're saying that it's going to be a little bit different compared to what we saw in 2008. Because in 2008, a lot of people had these adjustable rate mortgages, and they didn't even qualify for these loans to begin with. So when the market flipped on them and their interest rate adjusted to these higher rates, they could no longer make these payments, and then they became a desperate seller. And when they became a desperate seller, they stopped paying their mortgages and eventually they foreclosed. And when all this happened at once, the rest of the economy took a big dump and you could find properties at a fire sale price. Nowadays, it's a little bit different. Homeowners already have these super low interest rates, maybe in the 3s or 4s. And they have a lot of equity built in from these years of just massive real estate appreciation. So it's very unlikely that you're gonna see people just sell their house at a big discount. These experts are confident that the market will remain healthy throughout 2021. And in fact, when a vaccine gets produced, then the economy will shoot up, stock market will increase again, and that will provide even more ammo for home buyers to go out and buy more homes, thus increasing the price even more. So they're actually telling people to just get into a house so you can ride this train upwards. Let me know what your takeaway was from the data that I provided here today, and let me know if you think now is a good time to get into the Bay Area real estate market. And if you guys have enjoyed this video, please smash the like button and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this one. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Take care.